On this Decade Arcade, Rayman Legends. Does it hold up 10 years later? Time to talk about it. Rayman Legends is the 2013 follow-up to the game Rayman Origins, developed by Ubisoft Montpellier. You could correct me in the comments if I pronounce that wrong. Like most things Rayman, it is a platforming game at the heart of it, with a very distinct focus on maintaining its own unique flair and not having an art style that's very commonly seen. The core goal of the storyline is to rescue the teensies who have been captured by an evil force, and they don't really specify why they captured them too much. It's kind of your typical, we have a very light story in our platformer, and that's okay. Platformers don't really need to have the greatest story. Yeah. Rayman Legends is a very tight, very fun to play platforming game. It is at its best whenever you're going fast, which is like most platformers. The game's overall mechanics are kind of simple. It's running, jumping, and basic attacking, along with also gliding while you're jumping. And the way that the game accomplishes complexity is through the act of things that will alter how these interactions take place. So there are like air currents that you will glide on, there's walls to run up, and like while you're running up the walls you'll have to like jump between walls, and this leads to your controls getting reversed as you cycle around and everything. So like all the mechanics basically play off of each other very well, and then they're constantly adding new little things and new ways that the worlds take place in order to constantly keep the game fresh. There are also parts of the level where you get this little froggy companion that you get to control and have him control the map. So you're basically platforming while you're telling this frog, hey, move that for me so I could jump onto it. And then you tell him to move it again, and so on and so forth. And it keeps going. And those parts are also very fun. They feel very different from a normal platforming game. On top of just the core platforming, there is a lot of bonus levels that mix it up with the way that the levels move. So some levels will have them moving up, some are moving to the side, like and you have to stay ahead of the screen basically. And then there is also a lot of physics-based puzzles, which is a lot of like rotating the screen around in particular ways to get your character not to get hit by things. They very clearly sought out to partake in pushing all of their mechanics to the max as much as possible and just kind of having fun with the design process of making the game. And as a result of the way that they've decided to do that, like the base game itself is not incredibly difficult, but if you were to start achievement seeking or want to partake in the time trials, which this game has time trials for every level, then it can get very skill intensive, which is a very good way to go about designing a platforming game, in my opinion, is to focus on the casual, but also give the means for the hardcore audience to push it to the max. The game does feature 4-player co-op, and it features a wide array of characters. The base of each character is Rayman, Teensy, Glowbox, and Barbara. And then there's like a range of color variations, and some of them are even costume variations of each of those. From what I could tell, I played about a world and a half with each character. I couldn't find anything in particular that was too different gameplay wise on each of them. So just pick who you like the best, who you think looks the coolest, basically. And having that more customization around is always a good thing because, you know, not everyone has the same favorite color, not everyone has the same favorite character. People want to play as different things, even if it's just a cosmetic, you know? The game's soundtrack is also very fun. There is some references to some various popular music in the world, but then the music also fits very well with the game's overall aesthetic, and they have a very solid commitment to each theme of each world. Like each world is brimming with its own flair and flavor that you find yourself wanting to get to the next world to partake in the theme. On top of each world having their own flavor as far as art and music goes, they all also have their own flair as far as gameplay mechanics. You'll find mechanics like dodging spotlights, and then the next world will have you eating through cheesecake in order to progress through the map. And there's just so many different little things that the game is constantly changing itself up just enough to keep it interesting and keep you invested. The main drawback for me with the game comes in the form of the way the game presents itself. So the UI feels fine during the levels. It's just like your scores in the corner. The game doesn't deal with lives. it doesn't get bogged down by any of that. And like even your hit point, whenever you get a little extra hit, is just like a little floating heart next to your character. So all that is great. But whenever you get to the overworld map, there's some minor annoyances there. Like for one, everything is so segregated from each other. Like there's a room for creatures, a room for changing characters, a room for like a bonus, like little kung fu football thing, which is kind of cool. And then there's a room for the Rayman Origins, and then there's all the world rooms. It just feels a little cluttered almost, and like it's not intuitively designed, in my opinion. And then the most egregious thing for me is there's like this little scratch card mechanic where it's every time you get a specific score, which it's like the second best score you can get in a level, it'll give you a scratch card. And you go in and scratch that card off, and every card wins you something. So it feels pointless after a certain point because these scratch cards are the way you get the creatures. They're also a way to get more lumens, as well as unlock more teensies that they're going to have to give you things on a certain interval anyway in order to make sure the game doesn't break itself somehow. Like, you missed a scratch card and so you didn't get the teensy, like, right? Like if you got every scratch card and one of them didn't win you a teensy, but you needed like 413 teensies for this world, but you only got 412 and you've been through everything in every scratch card, the game would be broken, right? So once you realize that, and putting into the fact that everything has to win you something and the things kind of like just barely matter, it feels like an unnecessary clutter. And while it won't affect too much while you're doing the base run, you can kind of start just ignoring them, to be honest. If you're doing a 100% run of the game, it will be the most annoying thing ever. And then the other thing, it's kind of small, but again, it takes a few seconds off after every level completion, is the game will assign your teensies that you earned through that level. And it goes boop, 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 boop. And it takes a few seconds after every level to get that done. And you cannot skip it. You cannot start walking to the next level. You can't do anything during it. So it just feels like, why are you holding me hostage here for collecting all 12 teensies or however many is in that level? Overall, those are kind of minor things, so I overall enjoyed the experience. It was very fun. This was my first dive into Rayman Legends / Rayman Origins. I had not played either of them. I haven't played Rayman Origins still at this point, which also is another thing in this game, is there are callback levels to Rayman Origin levels. So kind of want to partake in the Rayman Origins just to see that connection, but that'll come at a different time. It's a very cool little callback thing, and it's just more content added into the game. The game also has like little challenges and stuff that you can do, but most of them seem to need an online connection, which is not working very properly for me, probably because it's a 10-year-old game, so the servers aren't really a thing anymore, maybe. But the game overall, very fun. I think it holds up exceptionally well in the current day and age. And the game feels like the developers understood the assignment and they just sought to have fun with it. So the game as a whole is worth your investment. And seeing how Rayman's kind of been pushed aside for the rabbits to be the main thing, it feels like, who knows when we're going to get the next game. This studio is also developing the new Prince of Persia game that's coming out in a few months. And so we don't know when we're going to get the next Rayman platforming game. It's only $30 maximum price point, and then you can get it on sale for about $5. So it's overall worth your time. The $5 is easily going to add up to like 5, 10, 15 hours of gameplay, if not more. Only drawbacks are very minuscule, like very, very minuscule. Like they just add a little bit of clunk factor to the game, which is fine. But like besides that, I highly, highly recommend playing Rayman Legends. It will be worth your time and worth your investment. And that wraps up our review for Rayman Legends. If you like the video, be sure to leave a thumbs up, leave a comment with any sort of comment you want, and be sure to subscribe for more delves into the past, as well as more gaming news related videos. I will have a link to more of my content in the video end card. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and game on.